In this video I explain to you the technical specialties of the mathematical English system so that you can have a better understanding of how it is different from everything that you knew before. The first thing is the two minds method. Now the two minds method means that you start learning a foreign language with your own language. Probably good teachers already figured this out and they apply this, but they did not make a curriculum that followed this, probably, I think, because I haven't seen any, and therefore using the two minds method is not part of the curriculum. Although they may apply it in their classes somehow when the students have difficulties, to help them to feel the experience of success somehow. Now, let's see that your mind, everything that can do with this language is symbolized with this circle, is within this. And this is your native mind. And then you go to English class to acquire the English mind. That's the E stanza. And with the traditional methods, they don't impart the structure of the language systematically, so they don't build it for you. They exercise the language, simple language and more complicated later. They exercise it, and then so your mind handles it within your native mind here. That's your English, and then they hope that this someday will grow, and then whatever you can do in your native mind, you can also be, you will be also able to do with the English language. It's possible because I also did it several times in my life, not just with English, but it's the long way, and there is a better way. So what's the two mind system? Two mind system is this is a bridge that bridges the two. You go to school and we teach you how to make an English sentence, but you use your own native words. And this is all in English, this is all in your native tongue. This is a half-half. That means you have an idea here in your native mind, and is going toward the English mind. It gets transformed here. First it will become an English sentence, and then it goes into the English mind, picks up vocabulary, and then it becomes an English speech, and then from here, from this mind, it gets uttered, and then you are able to go through this bridge, convert your thoughts into English, pick up the necessary vocabulary and speak it out. And then when you hear something from the outside, it comes in, an English sentence, you analyze the English, and then here it turns back into half of your native tongue, and then here you understand it in your native language. So in the very first few classes, we build this way to get out of your native mind. We build this bridge, and the first level of the mathematical English system is the bridge and a little bit of the English mind, and then later we make this expand. Now this is the first thing that the mathematical English system aims at creating within your mind. Because if you have this, you always have an understanding of how something is made. The sentence that comes to you, you understand how it is made, and therefore you avoid half of the confusions that would take place if you didn't have that information available to you and you have to understand the language or a sentence that you hear, you see. But that's the two methods mind. Now what happens with the bridge later when your mind has used it so often that it feels that you work too hard, then you just destroy the bridge, and then with that the two minds come together, and then within your native mind there will be a system, the English mind, that you can think in. That means you will be able to think in two different systems, English and native, and then it won't, it will not have to have a connection. The bridge will go out of the picture naturally. The mind will kick it out. Now, then the number two, the biggie, is that we use numerical formulae. Now, why is this important? Because if you symbolize knowledge, then it is the easiest way to remember, and that's why we remember mathematical formulas instead of mathematical problems, because with the formula we can solve thousands of problems, but if we know how to solve one problem doesn't mean we know all the 999 others, right? So why people before me could not make a curriculum that they can rightfully call a system is because they never symbolize their knowledge. When you symbolize your knowledge, you become aware of how much it is, and then you will also become aware of the differences within the system, and then you can set stages, and then you can kind of plan a smooth progress in the curriculum, and then you can do a whole lot of things with it. But if you don't, then you just have no other way but to exercise the language until your mind somehow, through all these experiences, forms a linguistic system inside your mind, and then you can say that you speak a second language. So numerical formula, how does it work? You have a sentence, very simple, and then you number the words. 7, and that's it. And then whenever things get changed, then the student will automatically understand, because numbers have their own logic. We don't count 2 and 1 and then 3, 4 and question. Then the student will understand that here something has taken place, and that's why it's a question. I am a student. Am I a student? Then you symbolize this and automatically retained, remembered and understood in a matter of 3 minutes. Now, providing numerical formulae, it works wonders. Why? Because number 3, systematized. The knowledge is systematized. So when you have a formula, you can work out a system. The system is something that works for you, and it saves you a lot of work. And most importantly, a system prevents you from getting confused, and that is a big one. A method can confuse you, but a system will not. Now, when you systematize something, you have the luxury, which you don't have with when you work with the method. You have this luxury of doing something very well, and yet keeping the goal of the whole thing in focus. That means when you systematize actions, a sequence of actions you systematize, or a sequence of functions, then automatically you perform something that is goal-oriented. In previous videos I already explained the goal of the mathematical English teaching process, and here you just have to understand that the purpose to integrate is to guarantee that the system functions to achieve a goal the best way. And the goal of language learning, unlike the goal of methods, is to impart the English language in the student's mind. That means to enable them to take it home, because if they can't take it home, then they learn nothing. Okay? So the teachers have to build the language. Cannot just be given, cannot just be exercised. When you just order the students through a series of exercises, the student still has to build it himself. There's no other way. The language must be built. Okay? Because the language is a structure, and the structure cannot just be dumped. It has to be built. Otherwise it does not function in the student's mind. Okay, so that is integration. Then, number 5, simple and appealing. The beauty of a system, that is, if it's well done, then it suggests or it offers its best way to apply. And in the mathematical English system, and based on all my teaching experiences, the best method and the best system for the student to take home the language at the end of the class is the simplest and the one that appeals the most. Okay, simple, of course, no need explanation. Nobody handles a complicated thing as well as a simple. Okay, the simplicity aims at avoiding confusion. That means if it's simple, it's a non-confusing method or system, and that is already a very good thing for the students. Then appealing means something that includes simple as well. 3 things for me. Close to the student's life. When the students go to a school and he learns sentences that the apple is red and this kind of nonsense, not nonsense, it's useful, but he really doesn't need this, because this sentence is not close to his life. So when we practice mathematical English system, first I always ask them to talk about what they did yesterday, their schedules, their whatever they performed, then about themselves, then about their families, then about their work or their school, then about their culture, and then about the whole world. So the closer the topic is, the more interested the student is, and the easier he will retain. And therefore in the mathematical English system we give numerical formulae, example, and then make them practice on their own, and the meaning they have to forge themselves, and they naturally will use the topics that they want to talk about, that comes from them. Okay, and that brings us to the third characteristic of an appealing system, is that it teaches first what the students wants to say. It needs not much explanation why it is more advantageous to teach me what I want to use the English for than teach me what Marx and Engels told about communism back then. I really don't care about it, but I know why I need the language, and I want to perform that task on my own with the English language, and that's my purpose of learning English, right? So if a system or a method or a teacher can do it that way for me, then definitely I will like it. I will prefer that to any other. Okay? Then we have the ULP. ULP stands for Universal Linguistic Platform. Now, that also I discovered. After that, not so long ago, I heard that somebody proposed this before me, a linguist, that there is an inbuilt system in which we understand languages. True, but so far nobody understood what it is, but I figured it out, and I explain it to you. Let's say that you have two possibilities. One, in communication, one is to communicate all that you can think of. And then two is to communicate all that your system of communication allows you. And this is limited, this is limited. If this is limited here and this is limited here, then this is the furthest you can go, and then you enclose a mental sphere. It's a two-dimensional sphere. You can look at it like the ground on which you build a skyscraper. And then all linguistic system can be built here, whether it's Arabic system, whether it's English, whether it's Turkish, whether it's Chinese, whatever the system is, the linguistic system can be rooted in this area in your mind, and only here. Because it's only here that you are able to process a language. You have a memory also. If all you do in the language class is memory work, retain data that's given to you, then your English exists in your memory, but unfortunately the memory doesn't process the language, doesn't process anything, it just remembers and recalls things. So you still have to use that data to make a language on the Universal Linguistic Platform so that the language can function for you. Why is this possible for us to make a language here? It's because every language basically have the same structure on this earth and probably elsewhere as well. And when a curriculum follows that structure, automatically as the student progresses in the language is imparted in the on the Universal Linguistic Platform and grows there in an integrated manner. That means that the first lesson is in the second, it's also in the third, and it's also in the last. And in this way the language is growing and the language is building at the right place where the language is processed. Now the next one, point 7, is that the mathematical English system inbuilds the CALS in the student's mind. What's the CALS? I just invented it today. CALS stands for Complete English Linguistic Structure. Every language has a structure, and if the curriculum is able to impart that structure in the student's mind, then the student can take it home and then the structure can function for him. It's like a Christmas tree. You need a tree first, and then you need ornaments such as the words and the topics and whatever you want to do with the language. But you need a tree first, and then when you have a tree you can design it to suit the mood of the day. And with the language you can create linguistic expression to suit the situation you want to respond to. And if it doesn't work, then you can rearrange the ornament and you get a different Christmas tree. Likewise, you get a different speech if you rearrange the components, yet the structure remains the same. And imparting this structure is the main goal and the target of the mathematical English system. So the whole mathematical English system is the most student-oriented teaching curriculum that I ever came across.